Story 1. The Haunted Care Home. I used to work as a CNA in a long-term care facility. I've had many encounters with the paranormal and what I believe was past residents of the facility. The facility is set up and there's two homes. One held 15 women and the other held 15 men. Most of the time it would be one or two of us per home. I worked night shift, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. It was my time alone at the men's home, and I was filling out paperwork on the computer when I heard a loud thud and a kind of a yelp scream. Immediately I ran out of the office and noticed someone walking down the hallway. I knew who it was. They had a very distinct walk. I called out their name, but they just kept walking. I followed them as they rounded the corner. And then I stopped when I noticed that they'd went into the restroom. It's good to note that the toilet area has a privacy curtain and is completely enclosed on two walls. There's only one way to enter and exit. There's two sinks and two mirrors placed directly across from the toilet, next to the doorway, so I could see directly into the toilet area. As I stopped in the hallway doorway, I watched him walk into the restroom and go behind the toilet curtain. I walked into the restroom and called his name again, asked what he was doing up. He didn't respond. I made my way to the curtain, fully expecting him to be there on the toilet, with his homework, aka ripped up magazines that he hoarded. When I peeked behind the curtain, he wasn't there. I kind of had to step back a minute and process what was actually going on. After about 2 seconds, I ran for his room, which was on the other side of the home. He was fast asleep in his bed, breathing and all. It freaked me out due to being short-staffed. It was not the last time I stayed there by myself at either home, but for that night I stuck it out and stayed on the phone with my boyfriend for the rest of my shift. Obviously my coworkers thought it was funny, but they didn't believe me. Story 2. The mortuary. I was working as a hospital wards person while studying for nursing. The mortuary and the part of the hospital near where the mortuary was always made my skin crawl. I would frequently hear reports of heavy equipment being packed up while no one was in the mortuary, where people reported hearing doors opening and closing. So anyway, one day our boss, the chief wards person, hands us a memorandum stating that the security department was responsible for releasing bodies to funeral homes. Will no longer be doing that task, and that security will never set foot in the mortuary again. This was followed up by a moment of silence amongst us, with few people stated that our forced security and a few special constables resigned over what had happened. 3 years later, I'm working at the hospital, 5 hours up the road. I'm chatting to a security guard, wards person, and offhandedly I joke and mention this to him. He knows exactly what I'm talking about and tells me the story. He said a man came into the emergency department, gunshot blast to the head. There was really nothing they could do for him, and he gets taken down to the mortuary. He's left out on a tray, as the state contractor for the coroner is expected to come and collect his body within the hour. So the security, who have to release the bodies, head down to the mortuary once the contractor arrives. It's a good 600-meter walk from their office to the mortuary. They try to open the main door to the mortuary, but they can't. So they have to go around and enter through the viewing room. They find this guy's dead body sitting hard up against the doors, a good 5 meters away from the trolley and tray where they left him. The cameras show that nobody entered and no one left the mortuary. Hence why all 4 security guards involved resigned. The reason why this guy knew was that one of his close friends was one of the security guards involved. I was there one night after the incident. Maybe 3 or 4 months later, we had a few doors open and slammed shut. There's no wind. This was a very secure part of the building. 3 other people witnessed that, but nothing else has happened to me in that hospital. Story 3. Home nurse. I'm a pediatric home nurse. I work in homes providing care for medically fragile children. One home in particular was especially active. My patient had been born extremely premature, along with her sibling. The sibling had passed away shortly after birth. Odd things would always happen. Pictures falling off walls, weird noises, lights going on and off, and once a toy literally flew off the ground and into the air. But I'm really getting ahead of myself. As a home health nurse, it can be hard to sometimes maintain boundaries and professionalism. I had always maintained a friendly but distant relationship with my patient's parents. This case was different. I became very close to the patient's mom. The physical therapist had told us that the patient would probably benefit and might be encouraged to crawl and eventually walk if she was around other children. The family was pretty isolated and alone in this state. My daughter was 2.5. I talked to my agency, and they agreed that as long as I was off the clock, they were okay with my daughter playing with my patient. I should state that my daughter kind of attracts the paranormal. I didn't really believe in ghosts or spirits or anything until I had her. She creeped out her share of daycare workers by telling them that their mom or aunt or dead dog misses them. I didn't really think about it until one day I had my daughter at their house. I'd left the living room to go pee. When I came back, my patient's mom's face was white as a sheet. I asked her what was wrong, and she told me that my daughter had asked her what happened to patient's named brother. I had certainly not told my daughter or anyone about the fact that my patient had a deceased sibling. My daughter had no way of knowing. Another time, my daughter was there, and we were decorating the Christmas tree. My daughter reached into a box and pulled out a bear wearing a little winter outfit. I had never seen it before. My patient's mom got weird and told my daughter to put it down, stated that that bear isn't yours. My daughter then said in a really matter-of-fact manner, "Oh, I know. It's that little girl's. She's so lonely." The patient's mom became extremely emotional. Apparently, there had been a previous pregnancy before my patient's birth that had resulted in a stillborn child. That bear, my patient's mom and dad had made it Build-A-Bear while she was still pregnant. My daughter loved going over there. We would plan sleepovers and all kinds of get-togethers. I think at first it freaked the patient's mom out, but then it kind of became comforting in a way. But then things got weird. I mentioned the toy flying off the floor and across the room. Well, that happened one night when my daughter got picked up by her dad from the patient's house. The minute the door closed, the toys started lighting up, singing, making noise, and a toy microphone literally flew off the floor and across the room. And then it followed us home. Toys lighting up, weird voices out of nowhere during the night, a baby crying through our monitor when no one was awake in our home, stomping up and down our hallways. My husband thought I went bonkers until he was at the house one night. The family had gone on vacation, and we were taking care of their dogs and their plants. He heard kids laughing and saw shadows running up and down the hallway. He freaked out. Other people in the home have experienced it too. I no longer work there, and whatever it is, it now happily resides in our home, running up and down our hallways, flooding our guest bathroom. If someone told me this story, I'd call him a liar, but it's 100% true. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please hit that subscribe button and give me a thumbs up. I really do appreciate it. Bye.